Evening.
Good evening or afternoon.
And on that bombshell, back to the studio. It's interesting that an important question was raised in that film. Because if you have a moustache, how do you concentrate on doing anything other than having a moustache?
All right. Hello, everybody.
Evening.
So I'm Abby. I'm from Bremer Prosthetics.
I'm Cassie. I'm from Bot Prosthetics.
I'm Chelsea. I'm the resident at Bremer.
So Chelsea's new joining us today. We're going to have her just give a kind of quick introduction of herself and then follow our typical routine of going through introductions and just kind of having a good little conversation here.
So yeah, I'm the resident here. Been here for about 3 months. I have a background in exercise science, and then I did my master's at Northwestern. I've done my orthotic residency, and now I'm on to my prosthetic residency.
So we're excited to have Chelsea
Very
joining
cool.
us today. So Tim, Cole, if we can start with you, if everybody, we kind of just usually go through, we see a few new faces here. If you can share where you're from, how long you've been an amputee and what level of amputee you are, and then how, if you have any questions or things you'd like to share with the group.
Right. No, super. My name is Tim Coleman, not Tim Cole, but I guess that's a little screen name. I'm from Doylestown, Pennsylvania. Um, I above knee, right knee amputee. The last operation was April 23rd, 3 years ago. Um, little anniversaries, ampy anniversaries, one keeps track of, I guess. Um, I have a prosthetic that fits well. My prosthetic person is super. My issue is my personal issue is just fear of falling. Um, which I didn't do. I didn't fall for quite a while, over a year. Yet this past Sunday, I did it again. And it's stupid things, rushing, going too fast or whatever, or thinking I still have a leg. Nothing broke this time. That's good. And that's me right now.
So how long, I know before that, how long had it been since you had a fall? Because the last time we checked
About a
in,
year.
I say it was a pretty good stretch. You were doing well there for a while.
Right. And then I got too cocky again. But also you need I was overly cautious before. And if you're overly caught, in my opinion, if you're overly cautious, you're not going to progress. Like, oh, I'm going to fall, do this. But so I can do amazing things from my wheelchair, but I want to get the flip away from it.
Mhm.
And I'm super with the walker. I'm trying to do the canes, but again, it's the fear factor. I do my little exercises in the morning, afternoon, and evening on my own. And I also go to a personal trainer at the local Y or gym and do aqua things in the same Y on the other days. Um, but the fear is still there.
So and it's a hard thing to overcome. And then having a fall, it's hard to build that trust on your prosthesis. And then you have that, and it's a little bit of a setback of, okay, now you're a little bit more cautious, maybe a little bit more reserved. You don't just pick back up of where you were at before the fall, right? It sets you back that little bit, and continuing to work with a couple of kind of different things. It sounds like you're doing your exercises, you're working with a personal trainer. Are you still going to physical therapy?
Yes.
Okay.
My like window of the quantity of sessions expired, and now I've just restarted. So, which is good because they're very good people. And I got the right people this time. The first year and a half was the wrong people, but I got the right people now. I just, and I'm trying and they're trying, and hopefully this will all work out.
So what makes them the right people for you?
Well, when you're a first, time amputee, I don't, you go from the hospital to this is who's recommended, and you don't know better. So I didn't know better. The people that, and they didn't say they didn't know about amputee people. And I just assumed so. And that's, on me. But the next time I asked, and they said, we don't have a lot of experience, but we have some. We have other people here that do know. A and B, when you go to their place, their equipment is much different. I call them, I'm sure there's a nice name for this device. I call them Peter Pan straps. It's straps on the ceiling, and you can't fall. And it wraps around the whole place, which is pretty cool. There are parallel bars. It's 4 times larger than the first place. And when they don't know something, they say, I don't know, but we'll find out. I can go on, but
No, that's great. And I know I'm like for newer amputees too, it's really easy to trust the information that you're given leaving the hospital. And there's a lot of good people out there, but always advocating of finding who's the right fit for you. And are they going to push you? Are they going to make you work? Some people might say, hey, you're walking with a walker and that's great. Well, if your goal is to progress beyond that, and I don't want to use a walker, I want to use a cane, or I'd like to use no assisted device, of finding a physical therapist that's going to help you meet those goals and set a realistic timeline for that. And just asking the right questions, of having the understanding of the difference of facilities and different questions. And it's the same thing of finding the right prosthetist for you, of when you're starting out, you don't really know what questions to ask because everything's so new. You're just trying to get back to walking. And then you're kind of like, I don't know, like if you feel like you're not being heard or not listened to, and trying to find, again, for your entire healthcare team, of who's the right fit for you and are they offering you the tools that you need to succeed?
No, for sure. And also it's the expectations. It's like, okay, I can do this. Put the thing on, I can walk. And not the issue. It doesn't happen that way.
So I just want to ask the group that too. So how many people thought that when they got their prosthesis the first time, you were just going to take off? Kind of show of hands here.
Me. But it worked. I mean, unfortunately, I was one of the lucky ones. It worked.
Good for
Yeah.
you.
And
Yes,
that's great when that's the case.
Like I said, I'm only not even 6 months in, and my record is 25,000 steps in one day and 13 miles. Last month, I had over 400,000 steps.
Wow.
I probably have 4, so.
And I'm climbing ladders. I'm climbing scaffolding. That's what I just got in. I was out in the heat all day climbing ladders. I did 500 stairs. I'm working in a building with no elevator, and I climb about 500 stairs a day.
Good
That's
for you.
awesome.
Yeah, I'm already working on getting my second prosthetic. It's going to be elevated vacuum with a hydraulic foot. So I started getting casted for it. So hopefully that goes through the elevated vacuum.
Awesome. That's exciting.
Yes.
And this is why I feel like crap.
No, everybody on my page is hard.
I know everyone is different.
I know everybody's different. Unfortunately, I've dealt with 14 years of using a walker, a boot, where I had diabetic issue, foot issues. It's so good to feel be able to live a little while now. Like it's like a second chance at life.
And Stephen, are you a below the knee?
Yeah,
You
I'm
still have
below
your,
the knee. I'm left below the knee.
yeah, so, yep. So don't be hard on yourself, you know,
Yeah.
everyone's
No, and
different.
it's different
and
above, below the
Yeah.
knee,
Oh,
left and right, which I
huge
don't
difference.
agree with.
Yeah.
If you're above, on the right, if you have any amputation on the right, at least in Pennsylvania, you have to go through all these hoops to get a driver's license.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
which is ludicrous because for years, if I had ever heard, I worked with autistic kids for 45 years. Lord knows how many times I kicked my leg. So there's a lot of times I would just use my left leg, just out of comfort, and it's no different. But it's illegal. Can't do that.
Mhm.
Do any of the other amputees on here ever feel nervous, like they're afraid to fall or have the same feelings that he feels?
Well, yeah, I mean, I feel that way. Like, yeah, like I said, I feel that way, but sometimes I just put like my fear aside. I mean, there's a couple times when I was on a ladder, there was no joke. Like, you feel like your foot, you don't feel it, like you start to shake and it feels like you're gonna fall.
And then Miss Linger, I don't know your first name, but we'll have you introduce yourself too. I saw you shaking your head as well.
Oh, she's on mute. If you tap your screen, you can hit on mute.
I got it. My name is, it's spelled like Tina, but it's Tina Lou. I've been a right above knee amputee since April 18th of last year. And I have fell over and over again. And it is scary when you have to get back up, but I rode horses and I was always told if a horse throws you off, you got to get back on. And I was raised with that because we showed horses and everything. So that's kind of the mentality I have, but I'm not going to say I'm not scared because I am. I had got the opportunity to try out 3 different microprocessor knees. And the third one was my favorite, and it was a loaner. So I had to trade it back in and go back to a hydraulic one. And that was like starting all over again, even though I started out with it to start with. It's just all totally different. That was 2 weeks tomorrow. So they told me to use a cane with it for a while. Today in therapy, I told my physical therapist, I said, here, take this. And I took off because I was like, I've got to do this.
Awesome.
I'm also a candidate for, it's a trial 1-stage osseointegration, but I'm not sure when that's going to happen. I was told I was supposed to have an appointment last week and it got canceled because a piece of paper hasn't been signed. So I'm anxiously awaiting on that because I have had several issues with my socket. And it, you know, if you get sores or blisters, then you can't wear it for a while. And so I'm hoping that happens pretty soon. And I'm from West Virginia. You can probably hear my voice. Everybody says
Thanks
that.
for joining us. A couple of follow-up questions for you.
Okay.
So one with the socket issues is, can you kind of talk about a little, like your experience kind of working through those? And you said you've been out of it a couple of times. And I know that then like volume fluctuations, trying to go back in things of just maybe sharing a little bit of that kind of diagnosing and trying to make adjustments in that process.
At first, my residual limb like changed size. So that's what caused, I think they called them pressure blisters. I can't remember exactly, but so they had to make me a new socket. And once that was made, then that kind of went away. and I didn't have too many issues, but now I keep getting friction blisters and sores at the top because since I'm above knee, the socket goes, clear up. And so I've been dealing with that.
And kind of, it sounds like it's been a little bit of a cyclical thing of it gets better for a while and then makes some changes and comes back.
Yes.
Yeah. And then my other question too, so with the knees of when you're falling, did you go back to your prosthetist too? Because there's some things that like where the knee is positioned in respect to the socket, right, can have a big impact on the stability of the prosthesis. So sometimes if you notice, like if you're at physical therapy and especially early on, so what can happen is your body starts to change, might get the range of motion might change in your hip. And especially for above the knee of that knee can buckle if that's not aligned properly. So did you go back to your prosthetist? Did they have to make any adjustments or was it just working through things with physical therapy?
I see my prosthetist pretty regularly, and he did make adjustments, especially when I was trying out the microprocessor knees. He would, hook it up to his little computer and adjust things. He'd have me walk up and down the ramp so he could see that as well. I've been very pleased with him. I started with him, and I'll probably stick with him. He's pretty good.
Good. No, and that's, I mean, having those routine visits is huge of being able to touch base and especially again, that first year, 2 years, when we have patients in their first prosthesis, I mean, we usually have them in at least every 2 to 3 weeks initially of just trying to keep up of volumes changing, alignment can change, just talking through, like working through different issues and trying to educate the patient of what can you do? And then what are the things that we need to address to make the fit of the prosthesis or the alignment better? Because there's a lot of change that occurs kind of early on.
Yeah.
So thanks for sharing with us.
Yes.
All right, so kind of moving through introductions here.
Yeah, so Victor, do you want to introduce yourself, where you're from, what level amputation?
Yeah, my name is Victor Stamey, right below knee, September 25th of last year. Started out of the gate just blasting and got my prosthetic leg and everything. When they done the amputation, I had what they call dog ears, and the one on the inside of my leg never healed properly, and I ended up getting infected, and they ended up going in and putting this stuff called Strivex. It's artificial skin, and needless to say, I'm still waiting on it to finish healing, doing what it's supposed to do. So I got to walk for about 2 weeks. And when I was walking unassisted, without a walker. I was walking in my yard and stuff like that. Driving wise, I'm from Tennessee, and there is no, you don't have to go back and do a license or anything like that, as long as there's no modifications made to the vehicle. So I just drive with my left leg, and I drive no problems at all. As far as my prosthetist goes, I am looking for a new one. I went with the one that the surgeon recommended. They're all together in their office and everything. And so, but I can't do nothing for at least another 2 months till it heals. But it's healing good. So it's just tired of sitting in a wheelchair, ready to get up and do something.
That's a frustrating setback, right? Because you had to wait from the time of your surgery to let the limb heal up, have the sutures or staples removed. And so you're playing the waiting game there, and then you finally got in your prosthesis. It sounds like you were doing great right off the bat, which is awesome. And that's a frustrating setback to have. And it's one of those of being able to kind of just show yourself grace along the way, let your body heal, and have that mentality of, this is my priority, is to let my body heal and recover, and staying off of things as much as possible. And I know it can be tempting to be like, oh, I want to put my prosthesis on and just a couple of steps isn't going to hurt. But if they tell you, like, don't wear anything, let this heal up, as much as you can listen to that advice and just really let things heal, it'll heal up faster. And just kind of having that, it's a true test of patience along the way of taking the time and let your body recover. But you mentioned, so you're looking for a new prosthetist. And that can be a good thing to do in the meantime too, of just go in for a consultation and talk to different people and see who's a good fit for you. Ask questions and try to figure out of, okay, these are the guys that I want to give a try once I'm cleared to go back to using my prosthesis.
Right. And that's basically, I went to one other person, went last week, and I don't know. They're telling me to go. They told me that I needed to go ahead and start wearing my shrinker, and my surgeon said absolutely don't put nothing on it at all until the stuff heals up all the way. Excuse me. So, and I live in the middle between Chattanooga. I don't know if everybody knows where it's at, from in between Chattanooga and Knoxville. So it's about 5 minutes longer going to Knoxville, and I'm thinking about going back up there. I went there when I first got amputated, or before I got amputated. I went and talked to a prosthetist up there, and they've actually been in contact with me more than my prosthetist that I got now. I haven't heard from them since the doctor done the surgery back in February. I mean, I haven't heard from anybody from the prosthetist office, so that sort of tells me that, you know, and I mean, I know they can't do nothing or anything like that, but it's just the thought of somebody saying, well, hey, he's been out a while, let's call and check on him or whatever. And that's what the first ones do. I mean, I've talked to, like I said, I've talked to them about 3 or 4 times, and so we're leaning that way. If not them, and I guess I can say names. I'm also looking at I think it's called A&O. They're in Chattanooga, and I know they're in Florida and places like that too, if I'm not mistaken. But it's just going from a single person to a bigger place, and I don't want to get into a bigger place and just become a number or anything like that. I know people's waited 2, 3, 4, 5 months to get a leg or to get a new socket. And I mean, I got my first prosthetic in 4 days. It's supposed to have been 7, or it's supposed to have been 10 days, but they got it made in 4 days. And so I don't know. Like I said, I'm just used to going, and can't do that now. So I'm anxious to get going back, but I want to make sure I get healed all the way too.
Yeah.
Because they done told me that if the Strivex doesn't take 100%, they're going to have to go in and do a revision, and that's going to put me back even more. So I'm trying to eliminate that.
Yep, do what you can to heal and let them do their thing, and wound care knows what they're doing. I've seen some good progress in a lot of our patients, that there was a lot that and everybody's body is different, but there's been a couple that you look at and you're just like, gosh, like this is going to take a little bit. And some people surprise me and they heal up really fast and very well. And some take a little bit, they might be stubborn, but once it's healed and it's good. And just listening to your doctors and doing everything that you can to help that be successful. one of the questions, so I do want to ask kind of to the group, because one of the things you brought up of one looking for a different prosthetist, and I know a couple other people here have mentioned previously that they've looked for different prosthetists. For those that are newer amputees, what questions would you ask, or do you wish you would have asked when kind of going to a new prosthetic office, in terms of just like care, appointment follow-up, anything? What questions do you feel are beneficial to ask when you're kind of having a consult with a new prosthetic office?
My question would be what is your communication with whatever the rehab doctor that I had, and my other medical professional? How do you, and also, physical therapy, therapist, what's the communication? What's the connection? How quickly do you communicate with each other? Those would be my little series.
Great. Who else has something to add to that? Yep, Michael. Go ahead and unmute yourself first here.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm Mike
Tim.
from the UK, and I become an amputee in November 22 on my left below knee. I've fallen a couple of times. The second time, it left an indent at the one end of the scar that's still there. One of my questions, should I be worried about that? I'm in that grey area again where this Thursday I'm due to have another casting for what will be the final socket, or the final socket for now, and it'll be a carbon socket with a lower portion of the knee to be cut out, because I would like to get back riding my bike, but I find my knee is sort of being hampered by the section where they cast, well, especially where I'm being cast for the knee. And like I say, this weekend in this country, they've got limb power at State Mandeville, if you're aware of that hospital, which was start of the Paralympics. And
Okay.
And I've sent a few questions to Limb Power in this country, sort of saying, yeah, I want to get back on my bike. Is there any help or tips you can give me? Because I'm a bit sort of worried. And they said, well, come and then we'll get one of the people that are there that either train the GB team or whatever to assist you, and then I've got wheelchair rugby to try, and basketball and all that. But it's also getting back in the pool, because,
Mm-hmm.
should I be sort of concentrating on anything else? Because I don't want to be going around in circles. Because I know most of the propulsion.
It is Limb Awareness Month, which started, I believe, in England, and it came across the pond. But you don't see it much in the United States. But I was told today that it's here also.
Yeah,
Yep, so that's the month of April.
It's February, because my mum has got dementia and Alzheimer's, and she's in a home, with people that are suffering it as well. And the dementia organisation had a charity thing where walk a mile a day sort of thing. And I was going to this local reservoir where it was 5 miles to walk around the total of this reservoir. I was doing that each day in February. And I think that has helped shrink it down. And that's put me into this grey area again while I get this interim between now and the end of the month when the next socket will be ready.
Hopefully get you out of some socks, right?
Yeah, I've got enough socks, and like I say, by the end of the night, I'll be wearing them all. But yeah, I've just reminded what else. I've seen on Amazon a thing called iWalk, and I've watched a few videos where it was like a crutch type thing, where you just strap yourself on it, you know, because to be honest, I'm not that great with crutches. And, you know, at night when it comes to needing a toilet break sort of thing, would one of those be better than trying to put all your socks on and then get your leg on and then get to the bathroom?
Well, the hard thing is that doesn't have a knee that bends, right?
Yeah. Well, sitting on the toilet, I suppose. Yeah, I could have.
Right.
Yeah.
You go to sit down and you don't have your leg to help you a little bit.
Well, I can do it both ways. You know, obviously, I have to sit down. I have to sit down to do one thing and then stand up to do the other. You know, but yeah. So yeah.
Cheryl,
Would
I mean, you
iWalk
could try
be?
it would be worth the try if that would be easier for you in the meantime. But it's hard to say that will be perfect for you. You know, it's person to person. So
Yeah. I mean, right now I know I've got 2 more socks because I'm ready for them. You know, I've been ready for the last hour or so.
Good.
And then, but once this meeting's finished, I'll be getting ready to go to bed, sort of thing. So it'll just be get ready, take the leg off, and and settle down for the night.
yeah.
All right, Floyd, can we have you introduce yourself again here? Oh, go ahead and unmute yourself.
Unmute. Okay. I'm Floyd. I live in Mobile, Alabama. I'm a hip disorder tech. From 5 years out, but I was an above knee since 1989. So.
Well, thanks for being here again.
Thank you.
All right, see you, Tina. We have a couple of questions here in our chat. Hang on, I'm gonna scroll here.
Floyd, did you happen to find a new prosthetist yet?
No, I haven't yet. I had one fella that is at a college, Alabama State College, and he offered to come up and fit me.
Mm-hmm.
Adan, I think his name is Veliquez. But I think he's hadn't did quite 10 hip disorder ticks. And then my second choice is I thought about, instead of trying to go to up to David Rodder in Chicago, I thought about maybe sending him my current socket and letting him try to remake it without me being there. But I didn't know if that was a good idea either. He said he could try. So
do you have a socket that has done better for you than other sockets?
Yeah, my current socket that I have here, it has the after I wear it for 2 or 3 days, my tailbone where I bear weight
Mhm.
under my ischium area. I start getting breaks my skin there. That's really the only problem with it.
Is there padding there in your current socket?
Well, I mean, it's semi-flexible, but no, there's not really padding right there where I bear weight at.
Gotcha. So yeah, and it's one of those of, again, it sounds like you've tried, hang on, I gotta move this here. Okay. It sounds like you've tried a couple of different people, you've talked to some different people and have different ideas. And if that's one that you could even send him pictures and just maybe ask of what he would do differently with the design and see if it's something that you'd be willing to try. And I personally feel that if I can get my hands and kind of feel somebody's anatomy and you get a better understanding of where's the pressure points, where can you apply forces? Do they have any like sensitive spots, any areas where maybe there's a little bit more like nerve sensitivity? That there's a lot that you can tell from kind of going through and doing a physical evaluation. But I know you've also tried a lot of local options and trying to find somebody that you can get maybe a better solution for. And if you have an overall well-fitting socket that could just be designed a little bit differently, then it's worth asking the questions of what would he do differently, and is it something that you think would be beneficial for you?
So you say maybe sending it to him might be a worth a try?
I'd say it's worth asking a few more questions. Right. See if you can send him some pictures and talk through some things and how confident does he feel about things. But I know you've been through the ringer with a few different sockets here and want to be doing more than you're currently doing. Right.
Right, exactly. Yes.
So I'd say asking questions is a way to gather some more information and see. And if you decide that, hey, you know what, maybe it is worth the trip out there and it's a distance to travel. But at the end of the day, I mean, we have patients that travel from out of state and come see us and they end up moving away, or it's a lot of people travel for their prosthetist because you have to advocate for your mobility. And if you find something that's a good fit and what works for you, that's it. At the end of the day, it's your life, and that's helps you be more successful and do what you want to do.
Yeah.
So, we did have a couple of questions that popped up in the chat here. Before I get to those, does anybody else have any other questions or comments? No? All right, so the first one here, they wrote, I'm a new bilateral below the knee amputee testing out a check socket for a week, but when I walk, I hear an air sound and I'm lacking knee mobility because my kneecap is pressed against the wall of the socket. You want to talk through that a little bit?
Yeah, so, all right, you hear air sound in the black knee. Okay. So it might be that it's your first week, so you might be shrinking down quickly already, and you might be going in the socket a little bit too far, but it's hard to know without looking at it. But usually if the kneecap is hitting where the kneecap area is cut out, you're just shrinking down and then just going too deep in the socket. So my first recommendation would be to add a sock, maybe even just a thin sock. But if that doesn't go away with adding socks or anything, you might need to go get the trim lines adjusted. And if you can't bend your knee in the back, that's sometimes an issue that patients have, and then we can just lower that back trim line. But yeah.
I'd say kind of one of the things too with that of between adding sock ply, I know this time of year for a lot of us, like we're in the Midwest, the seasons are starting to change, that people can experience a little bit more volume fluctuations just because the temperatures are up and down, the humidity's up and down, and that can really affect limb volume. In addition to just diet, exercise, did you eat something salty? And then being a newer amputee, that we anticipate a lot of that volume fluctuation kind of early on. So looking at the socket, if things felt good, especially like at earlier in the day, if they feel okay when you start your day and then they get worse as the day goes on, that's usually a good, hey, you know, this was feeling better earlier in the day. Maybe I need to go and adjust the sock ply. And same of over the course of a day of, okay, if I'm getting pressure at the bottom of the knee and I feel like more discomfort in the socket in certain areas of, again, this was fitting well. What can I do? What can I try? And then still reach out to your prosthetist of, hey, I've tried this. This isn't working. I'm still getting these pressure points. I think it's awesome that you're out in a check socket to be able to kind of get a feel for things long term and dial in the fit of everything. With that, there can be some fabrication things that contribute to the air noise. So if this is a locking mechanism, sometimes there's stuff in the fabrication that there's just a little bit of an air bubble that doesn't happen as much in the lamination. And so that's something of letting your prosthetist know. If you're in suction, that's a bigger concern because then it could be that your valve is loose and needs to be cleaned out, which is something your prosthetist would do. Or if you have a hole in the suspension sleeve and you're getting a little bit of a noise of just air kind of escaping. So those are a couple of different things just to manage the fit, as well as the suspension, to make sure that things are fitting well and you're not sitting too deep in the socket or have too much movement that's going to cause some skin irritation. So, yeah. And then we had another, Joe was on here earlier. Michael, he's also from the UK. We're getting a few of you guys from the UK over here. He said he is having a revision done on the 25th, and the hospital they're at is not excited to do TMR, and they're not in agreement with that. Any thoughts with the group? So has anybody here had TMR done that they know of? Which is like so basically,
I'm so sorry. What is TMR?
Yep. So, they take the nerve and either at the time of amputation or as a revision, if people have a lot of like phantom pain or nerve pain that doesn't go away, they actually take the nerve and put it into the muscle belly so that that nerve continues to have a job to do. Otherwise, when the nerve is severed, what happens is you have your brain trying to tell your muscles to do one thing, and the nerve follows that signal, and then it just kind of hits this dead end and says, I don't know how to complete my job, right? And so it can cause a lot of nerve pain. It can cause a lot of phantom pain. And so what they've started doing is taking the nerve and they'll tie it into the muscle belly to give that nerve a job to do so it can complete its order of, okay, I need to trigger this muscle. Okay, I'm doing my job. I can complete that message. There's a couple of different variations in terms of how they do that. But it's something that we have had people have it be a successful procedure for them. I want to say that it's usually about maybe like 50-50 of if it works for some people or if it completely alleviates the symptoms. Or if they continue to have kind of some sort of like nerve or phantom pains afterwards. So with any surgery, right, it's something to always weigh kind of the pros and cons of how much is this going to affect my quality of life? And is it something that even if it helps it a little bit, that it would be better? And just talking to your doctors and your care team of what the benefits are for you and what the risks are for you. So with the question of if the surgeon isn't happy or isn't in agreement with that as the plan, that's something that if you are going in for an elective revision, that you could always go and get a second opinion from somebody else, to be able to see what anybody else has to say. And if it's something with your health of, is there a reason that they think that it's not a good idea or a good solution for you specifically?
Right. Yeah. Ask more questions like why they won't do it or what is their other option besides doing that.
I've got a question about the TMR process. I'm very seldom in getting phantom limb sensation. Is there a way of finding out whether they've done it at the point of amputation, to prevent the phantom limb sensation, or should I try inquiring at the hospital, whether I can track down in my records?
So I know that your medical systems are going to be slightly different from ours, just being in the UK. I would start by asking your prosthetist if it's something that because you've been with the same prosthetist the entire time, correct?
Yeah.
Yep. So I would start there and just see if it was something that was in your initial record. And then maybe go back when you follow up with your doctor too, of just asking the question. I definitely wouldn't say that it's standard procedure for most surgeons. You see it, I think, more in upper extremity than you do in lower extremity, like below the knee, anything dealing with your legs. But it's something that it's been an option for people that have had kind of long-standing issues of trying to deal with nerve pain and have usually tried other options as well.
I mean, I have been complimented when I've been at the prosthetic people by the saying I give them as much information as possible, when I go. And they said, that's what we need, is people willing to share as much information, because it's us that, it's all very well being in their office for the hour or whatever, walk about a bit, and then it's when you leave the office and sort of go home with it. So he says you do need to sort of give us the feedback, as much information as you can.
And that's what we love. We love people that come in, and as much as you can tell us, that's helpful. I always love telling people that, hey, your job is to come in and complain to me. If you don't tell me about it and I don't know that it's a problem, then how are we going to fix this? And so even if it's and especially like early on, if there's things that one day it's a problem of maybe jotting down a note or putting something in your phone of, hey, I had this question, or I noticed this issue. Because I know a lot of us, whether it's going to the prosthetist or your doctor or physical therapy, you always have a million questions leading up to the appointment. And you're like, oh, I want to ask them about this. And, oh, I want to make sure I ask about this. Or, oh, I had this issue. And then you get there and they're like, oh, do you have any questions? You're like, I know I do, but I can't remember any of them. So having something to either like jot them down or track them, or so that when your appointment comes up, you just have that record of, oh yeah, I wanted to talk to you about this. Or have you seen this solution? And that's, I think, a common thing that people also bring in of, I talked to some person or I saw somebody at the store and they had this type of system and mine's different. Everybody's body is different. Everybody's limb is different. Everybody's tolerance, like their demands, their activity. And so your prosthetist should always be able to talk to you about what is the best option for you, and then going through and evaluating some of those options too of, here's what we can do. Oh, we could try that. Or maybe on the contrary of, you bring an idea to them and they can kind of come back and talk to you about, like, here's some reasons why I think that this might not be the best option for you, or concerns that I would have that could cause skin breakdown or irritation, or would be more limiting to your current activity level. So, yeah.
My next socket which I'm being casted for this week, we will be looking at the method of the lockment, like pin lock or suction lock. What's better? Is it better to have a suction lock or a pin lock? Because I find now with the vacuum sleeve system that I'm using, I put the socks on and I put like an inner socket on, and then I step into the outer socket, then roll the sleeve up. If I kneel down, I'm pulling myself out the socket sort of thing. So would a pin lock system be better over suction lock, or
See, and
or
so,
is there...
and that's one of those things of kind of talking with your prosthetist too, of here's what I like to do. I have some people that are kneeling all the time, say they're installing floors. They do a lot of construction, they're kneeling down. With vacuum or suction suspension, specifically for below the knee, if you're kneeling down and you puncture a hole in that sleeve, then there goes your suspension, because now air is coming into that system. You're getting a little bit more kind of like movement of you shifting up and down in the socket. And so if you have a vacuum pump, it's going to continue to try and draw, whether it's mechanical or a powered pump. But if that's the case, then some people are frustrated and they're just like, like I go through sleeves like crazy. It'll be a day or two and it's not worth the hassle. There are benefits to those systems, but there's other ways that you can kind of minimize some of that within a pin system. And so again, it comes down to activity, some patient preference, your limb shape, different stability, and there's things to try. And then if it's you're saying those things also matters to be included in that discussion of, hey, can we try this? And again, being able to have that conversation with your prosthetist of, here's why this may or may not be the best option for you. Because you see what everybody else has, but they know your activity, what you like to do, maybe frustrations that you've had with different systems in the past, and trying to come up with the best solution for you to help you succeed in kind of all of the activities that you want to do. Anything to add to that?
Not really. Yeah, I have a patient right now that I'm switching to try vacuum, and he's super active, and I am interested to see how the outer sleeve holds up and if it's going to bug him if it loses vacuum, and how many sleeves he's going to go through, like it's definitely not one, this is better for everyone, it's totally preference. Like, it sounds like you're wearing a bunch of socks with your vacuum system, which isn't great. So it's all, patient preference. I have people that love the pin and don't like vacuum, and I have the opposite. So it's just, whatever you want.
I mean, the only sort of concern I have about a vacuum, and you say puncturing the liner, is that I do like me fishing, and then sometimes I'm kneeling on the bank, and if I kneel on a rough stone or something, and I pinch, pierce that liner, it's going to cause me problems. So I've sort of answered the question myself. Perhaps I should go down the form of a pin lock, system first, and see if that works out.
And again, talking to your prosthetist of just ask them what their thoughts are and have the conversation with him of kind of what his thoughts are. And again, I know that things are a little bit different in the UK in terms of how insurance and all of that is handled. But just making sure that your prosthetist knows your activities and kind of things that you want to do. And I know, like for us, again, we have 4 seasons. So if you come in the winter, I don't always get a true glimpse of new patients for what their summer activities are. And then summer rolls around and they're like, oh, hey, wait a second. Like I want to be out on the boat, or I want to be fishing, or I work out in my garden, or I do these different things. Just because when it's winter, you're not really thinking about that. So our goal is to always help you do the activities that you love to do and you want to do, and to provide you the best tools to be able to do that.
Joe, is she also from the UK? Or
This,
yeah,
maybe, I think it's the same. Yeah.
yeah.
So from Facebook, we have another kind of little question here.
She said in the UK, we are a 7-week program as an inpatient to rehab. I think she meant to put 2 hours in a rehab gym once a week for that period. And then we get a basic leg in 6 weeks. And then she wants to know, does everyone get this, or what do people get? Yeah, I mean, 2 hours once a week is not super great, but I mean, in the US, it just, go ahead.
Tim, go ahead and unmute yourself again. Oh, hang on. I think it might have it clicked on mute again.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
There we go.
Yay. As for me, I'm fortunate. People have, talked about socks and the residual limb. I call my residual limb Sally, and Sally is a very good girl, and it doesn't increase, decrease. But in terms of PT, which is the question, I am going to PT twice a week. And as long as I continue to make progress, the coverage continues. Hopefully that answered the question.
Yeah. And I know, like, for us, we have patients that, I mean, as soon as they're healed, they get a leg. It may or may not be basic, just depending on the patient's activity level. But I mean, usually you would start with a preparatory, and that lasts about 6 months, maybe a little bit less, just to like stabilize your leg and volume and all that. But yeah, I have patients that go 2 to 3 times a week, so it's similar, but.
And I'd say with inpatient rehab, in the US, that those guidelines are going to change based on kind of hospital protocols, the surgeon protocols, what their preference is, what progress is being made in the hospital, that there's a lot of different kind of guidelines that they're following that's going to vary from hospital to hospital. So it's hard. I definitely wouldn't say that there's a standard in terms of that in the US, than even state to state, that every hospital is a little bit different.
Right. In Pennsylvania, evidently, if you go to overnight or whatever, in-house PT recovery, it's 1 time per amputation. So after the 1 amputation, that's it, which sometimes you get a new socket or other things happen other than amputation. And you need additional, I call it boot camp. And that's not permissible in Pennsylvania.
And that's so in the US too, of like going and seeing your doctor, of say you had something changed in terms of, I had a setback, I was sick for a month, I had some respiratory illness, or I just had other things going on with my health. So you have kind of a decline in terms of your physical functioning, of going back to your doctor and saying, hey, can I go back to physical therapy? If it's been a couple years or a year since you've been in physical therapy and you have kind of that setback, of trying to rebuild that strength, of having the conversation with your doctor about starting that back up, and can they write you a prescription to go back to physical therapy? We have patients that I know had, as you had said, if you continue to make progress and you show that you're making progress, they'll continue to help you like continue to go to physical therapy. Again, every insurance policy is a little bit different, but talking to your doctor and talking to your prosthetist of what does that kind of look like for you? And always kind of exploring that option of there's times where physical therapy is always beneficial. And if you can find a good physical therapist that works with amputees or is willing to learn how to work with amputees, that's going to push you to help you get to where you want to be. They are amazing. We love the physical therapists that we work with. They're a huge part of a lot of our patient success, just because we know that they're going and they're pushing our patients to get to the point where they want to be.
I mean, it's got to when I see my prosthetic guy and the guy Lorne that I'll be seeing this week who does the casting of the sockets and all that, it's got to a point with us that we don't end up sort of, we'll have a brief discussion if he thinks, he'll ask me if I've noticed anything, and then we'll end up talking about films and that, and I've lent him 3 horrors that I'll probably get back this week. That's how good a sort of trust in that guy that I've got, because I've been on other web chat rooms in the UK sort of thing, and I've been mocked for it, saying that I've got absolute, because so far I've not had one bad experience from them. The only time that I've been let down and I really can't complain is when this guy went sick once, and you can't help that, so I just let it go, sort of thing.
Yep, we're all human, right?
I did swear about it for a few days because the fitment was a bit uncomfortable, but
yeah,
it was just one of those things. The guy went sick, so yeah, fair enough. It weren't as if he just phoned in and fancied a day off. He was generally sick, so I accepted it.
Do we want to do the last Facebook question?
Yeah, so the last one we had from Facebook here was from Casey. She said she's had phantom pain at the time of amputation, but is now 4 years out and still had severe phantom pain. And so kind of with that, I know, so there's a couple of different options for like managing phantom pain, phantom sensations, and especially when it's severe it's frustrating. Any sort of pain is frustrating to deal with. And of different things that you've tried, sometimes like having a shrinker, starting out like massaging the limb, working to desensitize things and just getting used to some sensation. Sometimes neuromas can form underneath the tissue, which can be kind of a specific area of hypersensitivity. And there's some kind of other underlying complications that can occur just as your body tries to heal and recover. And there's things that can help in terms of like talking to your physician about any sort of medication or things that can help alleviate some of that. And then again, discussing, hey, are there other options out there? And if you've tried kind of maybe some of those more conservative approaches, of what other interventions would be beneficial for you to help address that.
Yeah. And everyone's different. Like, does she have phantom pain all day or just at night when she takes her leg off, or, is it just random? So it's all different. And yeah, definitely even talk to your doctor about it if you haven't. So,
and things in terms of like Cassie's saying, if there are different things that seem to agitate it, is there a specific area on your limb that is super sensitive that can elicit the pain? Or is it at a certain time of day? Are there things like taking the prosthesis off? So that can cause a little bit of just having that compression, and then taking that off can kind of cause the nerves to go a little bit crazy sometimes. And then Tim, I saw you had your hand up. Anything to add to that?
Yeah, I back in the day when I worked before this, I was a behavioralist and I taught people progressive breathing techniques and how to relax, etc. After my amputation, I totally forgot about that. Yet I started, I think, going on to year 2, and it significantly helped my phantom pain in terms of, meditation. Some people call it meditation, progressive breathing techniques, the massage, coupled with the massages, and it definitely helped 3/4 of the day. My issue is at night. It comes back in spades. But we're working on it. I reduced my medications by 75%. And I definitely want to go to the next 25.
Yeah, sometimes just distracting your brain a little bit seems to
Yeah.
help for some people. So
I think that's basically what it is.
Yep, and everybody's different. So
sure.
it's finding what works for you and kind of trying the different options that are out there. And then we always, with anything related to our health, right, we tend to start a little bit more conservative and then, okay, this isn't working. What else is available? What else is available? And just keeping all the members of your care team kind of in the loop, that don't hesitate to bring it up to your prosthetist and bring it up with your doctor. So good.
does anyone have any other questions? Floyd?
When
I
are
was
we
going
going
to
to
say,
meet next? Sorry.
excuse me, ice packs helps me,
Oh,
but that's just me. I've heard people say that they don't like ice packs, but with phantom pain, that is.
All right, any other questions, comments?
Are we going to meet on a regular basis? Or
So typically, Bill, do you have the schedule?
Next one is May 14th.
So our next one is going to be on May 14th. Is that also Tuesday?
It is, yeah.
Which is also a Tuesday. And we should kind of the next couple of months of be having these once a month. If there's ever any questions or things that come up in the meantime, feel free to always comment kind of on the Facebook pages or send us a message. And we'll try to kind of answer everything as we're able to.
very good, thank you.
So we really appreciate everybody taking the time out of their days. It's exciting to see kind of some familiar faces each time as people continue to come back. So thank you for continuing to come back. And we're always just happy about the conversation of how you guys are able to connect with each other, help each other, maybe share some different tips of things that have been beneficial. And also maybe providing some additional kind of guidance or answering some questions along the way. So thank you guys for being here because we so appreciate you. And we're always excited to see you come back.
yeah, thank you.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.